and I'm with Reptile Education of Virginia. Uh, we also go by REV, our initials. We are a reptile education and rescue group. So we take in pet reptiles that people no longer want or need veterinary care. We get them healthy and then adopt them out to people who want reptiles. This is Grumpy. He is our sulcata tortoise. His main diet is the grass in the yard, but today for a treat he has some collard greens, carrots, and tomato. He's about 75 pounds, and we don't know his exact age, but we think he's about 15 years old.
Hi, my name is Jessica, and you heard from Laura a little bit earlier about some of the animals that she has in her home that are rescues of Revs, and I'm going to talk about a few more animals. And so the first one that I have is Medivh here, and he is a leopard gecko, and Medivh came to us a few years ago, and Medivh here suffers from a condition called metabolic bone disease, and it's nutritional metabolic bone disease is what he actually has, and because of that, he was not given enough calcium as he was growing, so because of that, his bones did not form properly throughout his body. So he has a little bit of twisting of his spine, and he has some twisting of his joints, and some swelling of his joints, and some twisting of his leg bones. But he is actually quite a healthy, happy gecko at this point. And we have done everything we can to strengthen his joints and to strengthen all of his muscles around his bones. So while he may look a little bit unique, he has a very, very happy life, and he eats very well, and he can get around quite well. So he is a very, very happy little gecko at this point. So that is Medivh for you guys.
In the front here is Frida, who is a leopard tortoise, and she is a juvenile, and she can get around 16 inches long when she is full grown. She is from Africa, and she is a herbivore, so she just eats greens, grass, and right now she has some collard greens and carrots as a treat. And then in the back we have Egon, who is a red-footed tortoise, and he is from South America, and he's also a juvenile, and he can get around 11 to 13 inches long. And he actually is an omnivore, and he eats greens, and he'll eat bugs and other proteins once in a while.
All right, so next we have Stubbs. Madam Stubbs is her name. Madam Stubbs also has a little bit of metabolic bone disease. She's also missing her two front feet. But as you can tell, she doesn't really seem to care, and she gets around quite well. I also realized I didn't really talk about leopard geckos when I introduced Medivh to you all. Leopard geckos are from Afghanistan, Pakistan area. They are nocturnal geckos, so that means that they like to be out during the nighttime, and they spend most of their lives in a burrow. And they would eat small insects, and they would eat some eggshells and things like that for calcium. But they're a very interesting creature. They also have eyelids, which a lot of geckos do not have eyelids. So most of the geckos that live in the trees and things like that actually cannot close their eyes. But these guys also do have the ability to use their tongue to clean out their eyes, to lick their eyes, which most geckos have that ability to do. So that is Madam Stubbs, our second leopard gecko for today.
Spike, he is a bearded dragon, and they're originally from Australia. They can get up to 24 inches in length and can weigh about a pound. Spike is still growing, however, he is probably around 5 to 6 years old, however we cannot be certain. And Spike actually came in missing part of his leg, which you can see over here. And he has a little bit of an attitude, but he's definitely working that out.
Okay. Hi, it's me again. This is Thane. Thane is a crested gecko. Thane, unfortunately, is also suffering from nutritional metabolic bone disease. Crested geckos They are from New Caledonia, which is a little island off of the coast of Australia. These guys get their name because of the little crest on their head that kind of looks like a crown. And as I talked about, these guys are also nocturnal and arboreal, which means that they live in the trees and they're active at nighttime. Like I talked about with the leopard geckos, these guys do not have eyelids, so they do not have the ability to close their eyes. And he may actually lick his eye for us. Oh, he did a little bit. There he goes. There he goes. There he goes. So he's cleaning his eyes. So they do that so that they can clean their eyes and also to keep them moist since they don't have the ability to close their eyelids. He might jump a little bit for us, but because of the condition that he has, he can't jump super well. So as you can tell, he's a little bit shaky in those back legs. So I have him in a little cage that's not quite so high. A normal one of these guys, you would have them in a very tall cage and not worry quite so much about ground space. But for him, I have him in a cage that's not quite so tall just because I don't want him to be able to hurt himself, given that he can't jump quite as well. Oh, he can jump a little bit, but he can't jump quite as well as a normal crested gecko would be able to jump. But that's okay. He's working on strengthening his legs. We haven't had him for too long, and he is still very much a baby, so he is still growing. But he's doing quite well. So since we've had him, he's doing very well, and he's made a lot of progression. So we're very happy with that. So, and he's on a couple medications to just make sure that he's not in any pain. But that is thing for you. All right. Thanks so much.
This is Tubbs. She's a Savannah monitor. They are originally from Africa. She is probably around 4 years old. We're not sure exactly. And the monitors are a lot more difficult animals to keep. They require bugs and eggs and some small rodents as well, but their main diet is lots of bugs.
Go ahead.
All right, so the next animal we have here is Bowser. Bowser is a sulcata tortoise. You saw the other sulcata, Grumpy. Laura showed you him earlier. So Bowser, we decided to show you Bowser as well because while Grumpy's shell has just a slight bit of pyramiding and his shell is fairly flat, Bowser has a condition that's called pyramiding. Bowser here, you can see that the scutes, which are the individual parts of his shell here, his scutes are raised up. So they're not 100% certain what causes pyramiding in tortoises. They think it's a combination of not enough or maybe even too much humidity when they're growing, possibly too much protein in the sulcatas, maybe not enough calcium or maybe even too much calcium. Again, they're very conflicted as to exactly what causes pyramiding in our sulcata tortoises and in just different species of tortoises in general. So they're not 100% certain. They kind of go back and forth as to exactly what causes pyramiding in tortoises. So kind of what they've decided, I think, is it's just a general improper husbandry in our tortoise species. He also has some deformities right here. His shell goes in, it should go out, or at least be kind of flat here, but it does, in him, it does go in here, so that's another deformity. So Bowser has quite a few deformities to his shell. I don't know that Laura talked a whole lot about the sulcatas. They are an African plain species. They are found in Central Africa, and this particular species of tortoise can get to be about 200 pounds. Especially in the wild. In captivity, you don't usually see them quite that large. And outside of captivity, they can live to be well over 100 years old. In captivity, you rarely see them to live to be over 80 years old in captivity. But in the wild, these guys can live to be well over 100 years old. So that is a sulcata tortoise.
So these two are ball pythons. Originally, they would be from Africa. Ball pythons make excellent pets because they rarely bite people, and they don't get too big, so it is a reasonable pet for people to have. The one in the middle is a normal ball python. Her name is Seven. She's an adult. The one on the outside, he's also an adult. His name is Agent Smith. If you see them sticking their tongues out, they're using that to smell the air. They would eat rats in captivity. And in the wild, they would find small rodents similar to rats. No, snakes don't have eyelids, so their eyes are always open. And they always eat their prey whole. They can't take bites out of it like we would. And those are ball pythons.
Alright, so the next animals that we're going to talk about are Quasimodo and Severus. So Quasimodo and Severus are both Argentine black and white tegus. Quasimodo came in, we've had him for a few years now, and he has, once again, nutritional metabolic bone disease. So Quasimodo has his name because he has a hump here, and we've had him x-rayed, and this is actually part of his spine. So his spine does twist, so he has a lot of twisting and things to his body, as well as his tail. His tail has some twist to it as well. So none of his, to be honest, a lot of his bones, he's a little feisty today. So a lot of his, I'm gonna go ahead and put him down. So a lot of his bones have some issues here. But as you can tell, he gets around quite well, and he's quite a happy, feisty little tegu. He's also very small, so he should be quite a bit larger than he is, because he is a male tegu, so he should be about the same size as Severus. So you saw me holding him, so I'll go ahead here and pick up Severus. So again, Severus is a male of the same species. They're both adults. So you can tell here that Quasi should be about the same size as Severus, who is quite a bit larger. And Severus here is on the small end for a male. Severus is also a rescue. He doesn't have any health issues, but he was just brought in because his owner was no longer able to care for him. And he's a very docile, very friendly tegu, so he does a lot of our events with us. So Severus is just one that my husband and I decided to adopt on our own. So he's just likes to be outside, so he's pretty happy right now, wanting to root around in the grass and things like that. So we don't recommend ever having two male tegus together. However, these guys have been together before, and I think just because Severus can tell that Quasi has some issues and he's not necessarily a threat or any kind of competition for him, so Severus doesn't have any issues with Quasi, so they don't tend to go after each other. We still would never leave them together unattended, so we always have a close eye on them if they are ever out together like they are right now, but we would definitely never recommend having two, especially male tegus, together in the same area like this. And these guys are a South American species. They are omnivores, so they eat meat and vegetation. However, they are primarily meat eaters, so they're about 80% of their diet is meat, 20% being vegetation, and they can run very fast if they want to. However, typically they just kind of, being captive animals, they just kind of wander around. As you can tell, they're both kind of rooting around in the grass, looking to see if there's anything yummy for them to eat. We don't use any kind of fertilizers or insecticides in our grass, so it's safe for these guys to do this, because of course you saw that we have Bowser, the big sulcata that roams around in our yard. So they don't have anything to worry about there. But yeah, so that's Severus and Quasimodo.